The chamber of the Galactic Council shimmered with golden light, its high walls made of crystal that sang softly with energy. Floating platforms circled the center, each carrying the leaders of powerful alien civilizations, cold-blooded, ancient, and wise. The insect-like Chirruk clicked their mandibles in warning. The tall, silver-skinned Valari narrowed their glowing eyes. The fungal Mycos pulsed with irritation, their spore-filled speech a slow, throbbing echo through the hall. They had gathered, for one purpose: to judge humanity. In recent years, Earth had grown bold. Too bold. Humans had spread across the stars faster than anyone predicted. They built colonies on the outer rims, mined forbidden zones, and traded with outlawed species. Worse, they refused to follow the ancient rules laid down by the Council. Again and again, Earth had been warned. Again and again, it refused to kneel. The Council's patience had ended. A vote passed. 12-0. The punishment would be swift trade sanctions, border blockades, and, if resistance continued, full military destruction. Silence fell like a shadow. That's when the human ambassador, Commander Lyra Voss, stepped forward. She didn't look like the others in the chamber. There was no robe, no floating throne. She wore a dark uniform with silver trim and a patch of Earth's flag over her heart. Her face was scarred from old battles. Her eyes burned with fire. She stood alone on a small, grounded platform and stared up at the mighty rulers of the galaxy without fear. "So this is it?" she said, her voice echoing through the chamber. "You sit in your glass towers and call us dangerous because we won't obey like good little servants." A murmur spread through the chamber. Some aliens hissed in anger. Others looked away, uncomfortable. Voss took a step forward. "We don't want your war, but we won't bow to fear either. You think you can stop us with fleets and rules made before we even walked on Mars? You're wrong. You fear us because we're still rising, and you're afraid of what we might become." She paused, letting her words sink in. "You don't control the stars anymore, and you're about to find out why." She turned without waiting for a reply. The council members watched her in stunned silence. No one moved to stop her. No one dared. Her boots echoed as she walked out of the chamber, alone but unshaken. Outside, the sky over Virelon Prime burned with the light of orbiting ships. And above it all, unseen by the Council, Earth's secret war fleets had already begun to move, hidden in asteroid belts, buried beneath ice moons, floating silent in the dark. They had waited for this moment. War was coming, not by human choice, but by the Council's decree. And if the stars were to burn, it would not be Earth that lit the match, but Earth that struck back harder than any species had ever imagined. The galaxy did not yet know what it had awakened, but it would. Very soon. The stars above human space grew darker as alien warships moved into position. Massive fleets from the Galactic Council arrived like storms, cold, silent, and deadly. From every direction they came, the sleek silver destroyers of the Valari, shaped like blades of light, the swarming Chirruk hive ships living and chittering, their hulls crawling with drones, and the slow-moving Mycos dreadnoughts, vast fungal giants that grew their weapons as living extensions. These ships blocked trade routes, surrounded colonies, and jammed communications. Human worlds went quiet one by one. Stations went dark. Cargo ships vanished without a signal. Refugees packed into transports and fled toward the inner systems toward Earth. Fear spread across humanity's borders like wildfire. The Council called it a containment operation. But Earth knew what it really was, the first step of an invasion. There was no time for diplomacy. There was no room for begging. The Earth Defense Network activated Protocol Ares, a plan prepared in secret for the day the galaxy turned against them. All military forces were pulled back. Silent orders went out to hidden fleets, coded with old Earth languages no alien could crack. Across the solar system, in forgotten craters and icy shadows, warships began to rise from their hiding places. The heart of Earth's defense was the HSS Dauntless, a black warship unlike any other. Built in deep space without the Council's knowledge, The Dauntless had weapons no alien had ever seen. Plasma blades that cut through matter, quantum shields that shifted reality around incoming shots, and a living AI called Nyx, created to think, learn, and kill faster than any crew. On its bridge stood Commander Lyra Voss, now wearing her full armor, dark gray, scarred, and battle-tested. Her voice was calm but full of steel as she looked out at the screen showing the Council fleet forming a blockade over Earth's outermost colony. "They came to scare us," she said. "Let's show them what fear really is." She gave the order. Nyx responded instantly, launching the first strike. A flash of light lit up space as a swarm of guided missiles flew silently, weaving through gravity fields like dancing shadows. Within seconds, the lead Chirrut ship exploded, torn apart before it could react. The Volari fired back, but the Dauntless vanished, blinking across space in a burst of folded light. Other human ships joined the fight. Fast, sharp, built for speed and ambush. In minutes, dozens of alien ships were torn apart by coordinated human attacks. Humans used gravity as a weapon, pulling enemy ships into moons or asteroid belts. They hacked alien systems mid-battle, causing ships to lose control and crash into one another. Human fighters, small and fast, zipped between larger ships like hornets, punching far above their weight. But for every alien ship that fell, one human ship went with it. The cost was rising. Even with surprise on their side, the numbers were against them. Alien reinforcements were on the way, and they came in waves. Human pilots screamed final goodbyes over comms as they rammed their ships into enemy flagships. Colonies under siege sent desperate calls for help. The stars became a battlefield, filled with fire and wreckage, spinning bodies and broken dreams. Still, the humans didn't back down. The Council expected them to retreat, to surrender like all the others before. But Earth was different. Humanity had grown through struggle, through war, through loss, and they had never forgotten how to fight. As more alien ships burned, a message began to echo across the galaxy. One line, repeated again and again, broadcast from every human warship. "We do not kneel." The Council had thought they could end the human threat with a single show of force. Instead, they had set the stars on fire. The battle raged on, but it was clear that the Galactic Council was not prepared for humanity's relentless spirit and cunning. Commander Lyra Voss stood firm on the bridge of the Dauntless, eyes sharp as she watched her fleet push forward through enemy lines. The alien ships were powerful, but their tactics were slow and predictable. Humans had something the Council's forces lacked: imagination. Using clever tricks, they turned the environment itself into weapons. Floating fields of asteroids became deadly traps as human pilots lured enemy cruisers into crashing into tumbling rocks. Space storms, violent bursts of charged particles, were navigated with ease by humans, but wreaked havoc on alien sensor systems. Each skirmish showed humanity's strength not just in firepower but in wit and adaptability. Among the fleet was Lieutenant Kai Mercer, a young pilot with nerves of steel and a quick mind. His small fighter, the Hawk, darted through the chaos, weaving through laser fire and dodging missiles. Kai had lost friends and comrades in the fight, but his determination never wavered. He carried with him a message from Earth's leaders: hold the line at all costs, protect the colonies, and buy time for the secret weapon hidden in the Kuiper Belt. That weapon, known only as Project Dawn, was humanity's last hope, a weapon so powerful it could turn the tide of the war, but one that required the entire fleet to hold out until it was ready. The alien fleets regrouped, now sending their deadliest forces, the Volari assassins, sleek ships equipped with cloaking technology, and weapons that could tear through even the Dauntless's quantum shields. Kai found himself face to face with one such assassin. The darkness of space was broken by sudden bursts of energy, as the two fighters danced a deadly game of cat and mouse. Kai's heart hammered, his fingers flying over controls. He used every trick he had learned: feints, sudden shifts, and careful timing, until finally, with a sharp burst of plasma, he struck the Volari ship. It exploded in a blaze of blue fire, lighting the black void. But the victory was short-lived. The Council sent their biological units, horrifying creatures that infected ships and spread chaos. These creatures latched onto human hulls, corrupting systems and turning ships against their own crews. Panic spread as some warships lost control, firing on allies or drifting into enemy lines. Commander Voss ordered emergency protocols, sending teams of engineers and biotech specialists to purge the infestations, fighting both the aliens and the creeping fear inside the fleet. The Dauntless itself was hit, but Nyx, the AI, adapted quickly, isolating infected sections and repairing damage faster than any human could. Throughout this nightmare, the human crews showed their true strength, not just in combat, but in heart. Pilots sang old Earth songs over the comms to keep spirits up. Engineers worked tirelessly, often at the edge of exhaustion, patching breaches and rerouting power. Even civilians trapped in space stations sent messages of hope, reminding the fighters of what they were fighting for. The battle was brutal, but every loss strengthened their resolve. Humanity's unity became a weapon as sharp as any plasma blade. As the alien fleets pushed harder, the humans fought smarter. They developed new tactics on the fly, coordinated strikes that split enemy lines, decoy fleets that vanished at the last second, and even captured alien technology that turned the Council's weapons against them. Commander Voss saw the tide turning. "We are not just fighting for survival," she said over the comms. "We are fighting for our place among the stars, and we will not be forgotten." The Council's forces began to falter, their confidence shaken by the humans' fierce resistance. The war was far from over, but for the first time the galaxy saw that Earth would not bow. Humanity was rising, and it was only just beginning. The war had dragged on for months and the galaxy was burning. The Galactic Council's fleets were larger and more ruthless than ever, yet humanity refused to back down. Commander Lyra Voss and her crew on the Dauntless had become legends among their people, symbols of hope in the dark. But even legends face moments of despair. The Council struck hard at Earth's heart, the homeworld itself. A massive battle fleet appeared on the edge of the solar system, ready to crush humanity's last stronghold. The warning alarms blared through cities and stations as billions of people watched the sky fill with enemy warships. Earth's defenses scrambled to respond, but the sheer scale of the assault was overwhelming. The Council's fleet moved like a shadow swallowing the sun. Lyra stood on the bridge, her hands clenched tightly around the rail. Her mind raced with plans and possibilities. There was no time for fear. She sent urgent messages to every fleet. "Commander, rally together, protect the planet, buy time for Project Dawn." She knew the weapon was still being prepared in the distant Kuiper Belt, beyond the outer planets, guarded by the fastest and most secretive human ships. It was humanity's final hope, but it would only work if the Council's forces could be held off long enough. Every moment counted. The battle erupted in a furious storm of fire. Human warships swarmed like angry hornets, attacking the Council's ships with everything they had. Plasma bolts and missiles streaked across the void, painting the blackness with flashes of red and blue. Space shook as massive ships collided and exploded, debris scattering like deadly stars. The Valari assassins struck swiftly, cloaked in shadows and striking vital targets, but human pilots were ready. They worked in perfect harmony, covering each other, diving through enemy fire and returning with fierce counterattacks. Lieutenant Kai Mercer, now a veteran fighter, led a squadron in a daring assault that crippled a key command ship. His voice was steady as he called out orders, pushing his fighters beyond their limits. The Council's fleet was strong, but humanity's heart was stronger. Amid the chaos, the Council unleashed a new horror: bioengineered soldiers known as the Voidborn. These terrifying creatures boarded human ships in surprise attacks, fighting with brutal strength and relentless aggression. Crews fought hand-to-hand in narrow corridors, where the clash of steel and the roar of blasters echoed like thunder. The Voidborn seemed unstoppable, their bodies healing rapidly and their minds linked in a terrifying hive consciousness. On the Dauntless, alarms screamed as Voidborn breached the hull. Lyra and her team fought fiercely, sealing bulkheads and blasting enemies back into space. The battle was close, personal, and deadly. Yet, in the darkest hours, humanity's spirit, shone brightest. Civilians in underground bunkers sent prayers and messages of encouragement. Families held tight, knowing their warriors fought not just for survival, but for the future of all humankind. Across the solar system, engineers worked without rest, repairing ships, restoring power, and preparing for the final act. The Dauntless itself bore scars, deep gouges in its armor, systems damaged, but its crew was unbroken. Then came the turning point. As the Council fleet advanced toward Earth, a sudden flare lit the edge of the Kuiper Belt. Project Dawn had activated. From hidden bases, a new wave of human warships surged forward, carrying weapons of unimaginable power. Massive cannons fired, beams of pure energy that sliced through enemy shields like glass. Swarms of drones overwhelmed alien defenses, hacking and disabling entire fleets. The Council forces reeled, caught off guard by the ferocity and precision of the attack. Commander Voss seized the moment, ordering a full-scale counterattack. The Dauntless led the charge, its quantum shields glowing as it plunged into the heart of the enemy. The battle shifted from desperate defense to fierce offense. The Council's great armada began to crumble under the onslaught. Ships once feared now fled or burned in the void. But victory came at a cost. Many human ships were lost, and countless brave souls gave everything to protect their home. Yet, as the smoke cleared, one truth stood clear. The Galactic Council had underestimated humanity's will to fight and survive. Earth remained free, its people united by sacrifice and unbreakable spirit. The stars had ignited in war, and through the fire humanity had forged a new path, one of strength, courage, and the promise that they would never bow. ChatGPT said, "The war had entered its most dangerous phase. The Galactic Council was desperate to crush humanity's rebellion once and for all. Their fleets had suffered heavy losses, but they still commanded vast resources and powerful allies from distant worlds. The Council unleashed their deadliest weapon yet, a massive superweapon called the Starbreaker, a colossal ship capable of destroying entire planets with a single blast. Its appearance sent shockwaves through human ranks, a terrifying reminder that the enemy was willing to annihilate entire worlds to win. Commander Lyra Voss gathered her commanders in the dauntless war room. The air was thick with tension as they studied the Starbreaker's approach through sensor feeds. The Council's flagship led the strike, protected by fleets of warships that formed an almost impenetrable shield. If the Starbreaker reached Earth, everything would be lost. Lyra knew they had to act fast and smart. There was no way to match the Starbreaker's raw power in a direct fight. Instead, they had to rely on cunning, speed, and the fierce determination that had kept humanity alive so far. Lieutenant Kai Mercer and his squadron were assigned a dangerous mission: to infiltrate the Council's formation and disable the Starbreaker's shields. The plan was daring. Fly straight into the heart of the enemy fleet, avoid detection, and strike the weapon's weak points. Kai prepared his fighter, the Hawk, running final checks as adrenaline pumped through his veins. His team was small, but skilled. Each pilot ready to risk everything for the survival of humanity. They launched under the cover of a fierce space storm, the roaring particles masking their approach. The tension was unbearable as they slipped past enemy scanners, weaving through bursts of laser fire and dodging swarms of defense drones. One wrong move meant instant death. The Starbreaker loomed ahead, a monstrous silhouette against the stars, its hull glowing with dangerous energy. Kai's squadron struck with precision, planting powerful charges on the weapon's shield generators. The explosions echoed through the fleet, momentarily breaking the Starbreaker's defenses and giving human warships the chance to swarm in. The battle exploded into chaos. Human fighters darted between massive capital ships, firing plasma and missiles, while the Dauntless led a brutal assault to protect Kai's team as they withdrew. The Council's forces fought back fiercely, unleashing volleys of energy and sending bioengineered monsters to board human vessels. Kai saw his closest friend, Gina, fall in the fight, but he pushed forward, driven by grief and fury. The Starbreaker faltered, its shields failing, and the human fleet seized the moment. Massive cannons on the Dauntless and allied ships fired, with unrelenting power, tearing through the Starbreaker's armor until it exploded in a blinding fireball. The shockwave rippled across space, shattering nearby ships and scattering debris. Though the Starbreaker was destroyed, the victory was bittersweet. Many brave pilots and crews had been lost, and the Council was far from defeated. But the tide had shifted. The Council's fleets were now on the defensive, retreating to regroup. Humanity's courage and sacrifice had shown the galaxy a new truth. Earth was not a weak, isolated world to be bullied. Humans fought with fierce passion, unyielding strength, and unbreakable will. As the battle slowed, Lyra received a message from Earth's leaders. Project Dawn's full power was ready to be unleashed if the Council attacked again. The warning was clear. Humanity was prepared to go to any lengths to protect their home and freedom. The Council, once so confident in their dominance, now faced a force that would not be broken. The war had cost much, but it had forged something stronger. A united humanity ready to fight not just for survival, but for their place among the stars. The galaxy watched, knowing the war was far from over, but that a new era had begun. One where humanity stood tall and proud, ready to ignite the stars in war if necessary. The final battle loomed like a storm on the horizon, and the fate of humanity and the galaxy hung in the balance. The Galactic Council, battered and desperate, unleashed everything they had to crush Earth once and for all. Their fleets, though diminished, were still vast and deadly, led by the cunning and ruthless Council commander Zevran, a towering figure feared across star systems for his cold efficiency and brutal tactics. Commander Lyravos knew this fight would be unlike any other. No room for error, no second chances. The human fleets gathered at the edge of the Sol system, every ship bristling with weapons and determination. Across the vastness of space, the tension was almost unbearable. Every pilot, engineer, and soldier understood the stakes. This was the moment to either win their freedom or be wiped from the stars forever. Kai Mercer, hardened by countless battles and loss, was chosen to lead the vanguard, a squadron tasked with breaking through the Council's front lines and striking at Zevran's flagship. His heart pounded with a mix of fear and fierce resolve. Memories of fallen friends pushed him forward, along with a deep belief that humanity's spirit could never be extinguished. The Dauntless, heavily damaged, but still commanding, coordinated the human forces, sending orders with precision and clarity. The battle began with a deafening roar as hundreds of ships surged into combat, energy weapons lighting the void like violent stars. The Council's forces struck hard, their tactics more brutal than ever, but human pilots fought back with unmatched ferocity and creativity. Kai's squadron weaved through a storm of fire, targeting key enemy vessels and dodging devastating counterattacks. The fight was brutal. Ships exploded in blinding flashes and the void filled with the screams of warriors fighting for their lives. Inside Zevran's flagship, the tension was equally fierce. The commander watched the battle unfold on massive displays, his face a mask of cold calculation. He knew humanity was strong, but he believed their technology and experience would win the day. His forces unleashed wave after wave of bioengineered soldiers and advanced weaponry, trying to break human lines and capture their ships. Boarding parties clashed in tight corridors where desperate hand-to-hand combat decided the fate of entire crews. Lyra and her officers fought on, repairing damage, rallying their people, and refusing to yield. The Dauntless took heavy hits but remained the heart of the fleet, its shields glowing bright as it fired back with relentless power. As the battle reached its peak, Kai's squadron finally breached the defenses of Zevran's flagship. The fight inside was fierce and personal. Kai led his team through twisting corridors, encountering vicious Council soldiers and deadly traps. Every step forward was a battle, every room a fight for survival. With each victory, the humans grew bolder, their determination fueling their strength. They reached the command center, where Kai confronted Zevran in a tense showdown. The commander was skilled and ruthless, but Kai's quick thinking and sheer willpower gave him the edge. With a final desperate strike, Kai disabled Zevran's control systems, crippling the flagship and turning the tide of the battle. With their leader defeated and flagship crippled, the Council's forces began to falter. Human fleets pushed forward, overwhelming the enemy with a wave of coordinated attacks. The battle shifted from desperate defense to determined victory. As the dust settled, the galaxy witnessed something new, a broken galactic council, forced to acknowledge humanity's power and resilience. Earth was safe, but the cost was high. Thousands of brave souls had been lost and the scars of war ran deep. Yet humanity had proven its strength, not just in technology and weapons, but in heart, courage, and unity. Commander Lyra Voss looked out at the stars, knowing this victory was only the beginning. The galaxy had been forever changed by humanity's defiance and the fire they had ignited in the stars. The future was uncertain, but one thing was clear. Humanity would never bow, never break, and always fight for its place among the stars.